and stories that make our community special. Plus, connect with local businesses through the Lynchburg Business Alliance directory and stay in the loop on the latest events from Lynchburg Tourism. It's all right here. Local news, weather, sports, deals, and more at the lynchburgportal.com. Your gateway to everything Lynchburg.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Well, you didn't have to be Miss Cleo, R.I.P. to her, minus the whole fraud allegations.
Don't go blindly through life. Call me now for your free reading.
Then inevitably this day would arrive, that Tony Bennett Court would become a reality, as now the news has come out that, in fact, next Saturday at John Paul Jones Arena before the 2 p.m. tip against North Carolina, it will be John Paul Jones Arena and Tony Bennett Court, or Tony Bennett Court at John Paul Jones Arena.
And you get to be there, Ed.
I do.
That's awesome, man.
I'm excited for it. It's going to be a crazy one because, after that, I'll be coming back to see Liberty because they have a home game Saturday night. So a lot of time away from the family, but I'm doing the wise thing this weekend, TJ. My wife and I have dinner planned at Oliver's on Rivermont, an 801 Raw Bar.
Okay.
Thanks to InsaneRadioDeals.com. Shh, don't tell my wife about that. You can get the gift certificates there as well at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Good for either one. But the thing of it is, this was going to happen. If anything, if people are wondering what took so long, I would imagine it's because Tony Bennett needs some convincing. I will never forget that there were times speaking with UVA officials, I'll just say, and they mentioned that Tony Bennett is a guy that just doesn't like to talk about himself. We were very blessed that we got him regularly for interviews at ACC basketball tip-off and happened to be in a very good slot where we could get great content throughout his tenure. But outside of that, we tried, like many people in the media did, even in the offseason around, Fellowship of Christian Athletes events or other charitable endeavors. Nope. Wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing against people. Very cordial every time. I had times where I'd walk into John Paul Jones Arena with Tony Bennett, just conveniently. I bumped into him twice, by the way, at a certain swanky hotel / golf course, if you will, in the Charlottesville area. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. They might have squash, tennis, and golf all home to UVA. I'm petulant. I'm not going to mention the name, but 1 + 1 = 2 type of thing. And I bumped into Tony Bennett a couple times there. And again, very personable, but just didn't like the attention from a public adulation standpoint. So I would imagine this is why it took so long. But inevitably, look, Tony Bennett was so beloved by people at Virginia in so many different ways. First of all, the way in which they were able to perform at Virginia.
There's no chance it would have happened without the young men and how we did it. And we did it in a unique way. That was my vision, our vision as a staff. Can we build this program that maybe is a little different than the way you do it? And that's the beauty of this sport. You get to choose how you do it, with who you do it, in the style you do it. And I won't miss answering questions about pace of play or style of play anymore from the media. But we chose a way that we thought was the best way to win. And that's the beauty of this sport.
People love that for Tony Bennett, doing it his way, doing it a unique way. Frankly, honestly, doing it a way that was outdated, and he admitted as such for why he stepped down when he did at Virginia, which I think only endears him more, even though the last handful of years, the results were not what Virginia is capable of and produced during the height of the Bennett era, or frankly, even in year one of the Ryan Odom era.
I think it's right for players, student athletes to receive revenue. Please don't mistake me. I do. I think it is. But the game and college athletics is not in a healthy spot. It's not. And there needs to be change. And it's not going to go back. I think I was equipped to do the job here the old way. And that's who I am. And that's how it was. and my staff has buoyed me along to get to this point. But there needs to be change. It's going to be closer to a professional model, Coach Carlisle. I think it is, where there's got to be collective bargaining. There has to be a restriction on the salary pool that teams can spend. There has to be transfer regulation restrictions. There has to be some limits on the agent involvement to these young guys. And there are good agents and there are bad agents, and they're driving some of this stuff that we're in. And I worry a lot about the mental health of the student athletes as all this stuff comes down.
That was Tony Bennett. The part that still stands out is I was equipped to do it the old way, but not the new way.
I have a lot of respect for that, Ed. He could have easily just stayed because he was beloved. He could have kept on coaching, even if they didn't make it to the tournament, and could have kept making his money. But he said, I just don't think I'm right for this program anymore. I think it's time for me to walk away.
Am I off base in making this comparison? And it's not to say this other person is any less of a Christian. As a Christian, I don't try to judge people where they are or anywhere, but certainly in terms of your relationship with Christ and with God and with your religious faith. But Dabo Swinney, like Dabo has expressed all the same frustrations that Tony Bennett expressed in the two clips that were there that drove Tony Bennett to retirement, but he still doesn't want to give it up, still collecting a paycheck, still reluctant to make any changes. Ironically, might be different if Chandler Morris becomes eligible and could come to Clemson to be their quarterback.
He'll dip a toe in the transfer portal once in a while, but he does not like to go massively.
No, and you're 100% right. Like when you're talking about Tony Bennett and the way he did it, people loved him for the way he did it. People loved him for the way that he left and the way that he never wanted it to be about himself, to the point where that's what I've heard from everybody else. And again, I'll be curious what Jerry Ratcliffe has to say in covering the Commonwealth Monday here in the Fast Lane. But every time you hear about the way Tony Bennett operated, it endeared him to Virginia fans, even when the results were not what they wanted, and even when they were frustrated by the lack of results and the lack of reaching their ceiling as a basketball team and program the final couple of years of Tony Bennett's tenure. Because let's be real, that was the case, because immediately Ryan Odom came in, basically ushered out the coaches and the players, brought in a whole new collection, and who knows how the season's going to end up. But they're in a very good spot where I think you can say Virginia right now is in the top 4. They're in position for a double bye in the ACC tournament.
Absolutely. UVA can make noise in the tournament. Let's keep in mind, they beat Texas, who upset Bama and Vanderbilt back-to-back. Those are two top basketball programs right there. UVA has a lot of great quad one wins in their resume. I truly think they could give Duke a run for their money. I think they could beat Carolina next Saturday. And they showed they could keep it with the guys like Louisville. UVA and the ACC are starting to adapt more, and it shows. Even with Mike Young and VT losing in 3 buzzer beaters this year, they're showing they can compete.
Mike Young and Tech are trying. Virginia is doing.
It is.
And that's a big difference. But, you're doing it at the North Carolina game, which I'm sure is something that Virginia wanted. But I think also it's probably easier for Tony Bennett to accept the honor of Tony Bennett Court, which is going to come and officially be unveiled not this coming Saturday, tomorrow, but next Saturday, the 24th, just to date it whenever you listen to it, before the North Carolina game. I think it's easier now because it's not going to feel like he's infringing upon Ron Sanchez's time leading. Not that that was ever really going to go anywhere, because I think the one idyllic part of Tony Bennett is he wanted to see his assistant get a chance, and I just don't think that was ever going to happen. First of all, I think Sanchez is your classic great assistant, not good head coach. Like it's his personality. Nice guy, but maybe not the right type of run through a wall plus visionary leader. Like there are a lot of traits you need to be in the head coaching position, and it's hard. And it doesn't mean you don't have admirable qualities if you don't fit that particular role. There are plenty of great coordinators, but not head coaches.
Absolutely. To
use the football analogy. But for Virginia, this was inevitably going to happen, because you're not going to get John Paul Jones Arena renamed because, that family brought the money to build the venue.
Absolutely.
So that one wasn't going to happen. So the court was inevitably going to happen. And again, with all due respect to Terry Holland, who, had a great run of success during his tenure, when you think of John Paul Jones Arena and the success, the John Paul Jones family built the arena. Tony Bennett put it on the map in the sense of being a high-end basketball venue and left it in a much better place. And at a time where he could have, like you said, TJ, drained the bank account just collecting checks, knowing he's not the right guy, and instead turning it over. And granted, again, I think Sanchez was more of an ideal than an actual practicality of being the head coach.
Yeah.
But it set Ryan Odom up to be in a spot where now Virginia is where fans expect. And they are deservedly a team that people think can make a deep run in March.
And I think it's the perfect time because UVA's back on the rise, and now you're celebrating a legendary head coach who will be in the Virginia Hall of Fame this coming year. And why not? If you can't rename the stadium, because John Paul Jones, lots of lore behind it, but I think it's perfect to name the court after a outstanding head coach who brought so much love back to UVA since the 80s.
Fast Lane, Ed Lane, TJ_Wilkerson 8 to drop your thoughts on either of that for us here in the Fast Lane. Meanwhile, speaking of victories, but didn't really feel like victories, that's what happened last night for Liberty over at
Go home to Bel Air.
And first of all, we've got to give a little credit where it is due because, well, yesterday in the Fast Lane, as you may have heard live, and don't worry if you didn't, there's always Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, or there's this clip that we get to play from Trey Lyle is the game tipped off at 6 p.m. And we went a little over yesterday with our Chief Vibes guy, Drew Dinsick, talking some Australian Open. But Trey mentioned there was still, I'm going to curse for a second here, hope that I would be able to get over to
Go home to Bel Air.
in time. And Trey called it. Cleveland has a chance to join Porter and Matheny at the 1,000-point mark over at
Go home to Bel Air.
a 6 o'clock tip-off this evening. And, to get my usher on for just a second, there's a good chance I'll miss the beginning of that and that I will miss Zach Cleveland's 1,000th point because he's at 995 right now because, well, got to drive safely so that we don't have to call our friends at trostlaw.com or someone else doesn't have to.
No, you clearly just jinxed it, Ed.
What? Which jinx? Liberty's going to lose or which broadcast? Or
No,
he's not going to get
He's
points.
not going to get the 5 points by the time you get there because you just jinxed it.
Trey called it because I arrived over at
Go home to Bel Air.
at halftime, and he had 4 points. And here's the best part about this, TJ.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you were watching the game and noticed this, but
Yeah.
Zach Cleveland apparently had a layup that he made that would have put him over the mark, but it called back for an offensive foul, so it wiped it out.
And what's funny is Cleveland always talked about breaking records by free throws. He always made jokes about it. And apparently he made a joke about it last night. And lo and behold, he got it off a free throw.
No doubt. And here's what he had to say about that ironic point.
A couple of days ago, Bill told me it was coming up, and I told Caden, I'm like, it's got to be on a free throw. I just know it. So it was fun. It was awesome, honestly. Just obviously there's a sense of confidence there, and I'm feeling good about those going to the line. I feel a lot more confident. So it was a cool moment, obviously, as a milestone. And I think I heard some crazy stat about there's only 2 teams in the country with 3 guys. So just being on a team of just a testament to this program and just staying all 4 years. And it was a cool moment.
You're just not going to see a group of players hit the 1,000-point mark all together. There's only one other school right now in college basketball that has players that are in that particular spot. We did a little trivia of this last night, so that's why I know the answer. I'm not a stat guy. Do you want to take a stab at it? I'll give you a hint. When I mention it, you won't be surprised.
The transfer portal has changed so much. Who has stayed for so long? I feel like it's somewhere like Memphis.
No. Memphis has way too many transfers and problems.
Okay.
Think of organized. They have a very dubious similarity to the Virginia. No, dubious similarity to the Virginia Cavaliers. Think about where the infamy for Virginia pre-championship. What got Virginia?
Oh man, you're gonna have to give me an answer.
Virginia is one of 2 teams to do this as a number 1 seed. Lose to a 16 seed. Who's the other?
Man.
That will give you your answer, by the way, for the school. It's Purdue. Purdue lost to Fairleigh Dickinson as well. And then they've got Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and I forget the other one's name.
Right,
Smith, Lawyer, and the other one.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but whatever. Purdue has got 3 guys that have made the 1,000-point mark. And why I'm blanking on names right now.
Caden's in the 1,000-point mark, right?
Yes, Matheny and Porter are already there. Zach Cleveland got there last night.
Right. Okay.
So Purdue's the other school, which doesn't shock anybody because they've had continuity. They do have the funds to keep guys there for a period of time. And obviously they've had a lot of success, but I don't think any of those guys scream can't miss NBA players. So they stick around in college for a while to collect more money than they would get in the pros. They'll probably still get paid
That's why
foreign.
Houston.
Well, Houston was a very logical answer. That was actually one of the guesses for one of the Liberty players last night when brought it up. But that was one of the positives for Liberty last night. The reality is Liberty had a 17-point lead when I walked into, and it all evaporated. New Mexico State came back and tied the game. Liberty pulled away and won 73-71 because New Mexico State decided to take a 3 when they could have just gone for a 2 to win the game. Head scratcher. But the reality is it does not mask what Liberty's situation was. And Zach Cleveland weighed in that, first of all, maybe got a little too comfortable.
Obviously, when you're up, there's a sense of like comfortability. And I think in the first half, we had them on their heels. In the beginning of the second half, they had us on our heels. And so I think that's the difference. We were attacking them, being the aggressor in the first half, and then they punched us first, and we kind of were on our heels. So it's like, how fast can you respond? Can it take only a few buckets, not a whatever overrun they went on?
Can you respond? How do you respond? That's the thing. And I go so far as to say that it was a much more somber vibe, if you will, yesterday over at in the post-game press conference over at LA Liberty Arena. And lackadaisical is the term that, this is in my words, Zach Cleveland's how he described the way he and his teammates felt they played in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, we came out strong in the first half. We knew that they're a team of runs. They have started out hot in a few games coming to conference, so we knew that was going to be a big thing. And so we started off pretty well. Kind of feel like we took their first punches, and then there's just a lack of just mental toughness there in the beginning of the second half. Kind of came out lackadaisical, and that just can't happen. I mean, we're happy we came away with a win here, but everyone in the locker room knows we got some work to do. So I think it was just more of a mental lapse than anything on the court wise, which we just something to improve on. So it's good to play in these close games and get those reps of late game situations.
Lackadaisical and mental lapse. I mean, the vibe from Zach Cleveland is as grateful as he was to get through the 1,000-point mark. There wasn't a lot of sugarcoating from his perspective. And that, again, people who want the, pun intended with this, fire and brimstone from Richie McKay, Liberty Flames men's basketball coach, after they blew a 17-point lead and had to cling for dear life for a 73-71 win against New Mexico State. If New Mexico State just went for the shot to make it 73-72, they might have won, but they went for the three-pointer, and it ended up costing them, and Liberty holds on for the 73-71 win. But burdened is the phrase that Richie McKay used, and there's a reason why.
Happy with finding a way to win. Again, Colin was out. We had some foul trouble, had some matchups that we probably would have chosen to go differently. But again, it's a mark of a good team, and I'm a little burdened by the expectation, and I think they are too. Of you got to win every game, or I felt like we were not ourselves. So again, happy that we found a way, but certainly don't want to take the joy out of why those guys play.
Burdened by the expectation, doesn't want to take the joy out of why his players play. Part of the reason why, if you're Richie McKay and you can say that, is because you default to what you know is a strong core of Cleveland, Porter, and Matheny as veteran leaders who can make sure that they have a finger on the pulse of what happened. If it's a younger team, I think you would get more, pun intended coming up again, fire and brimstone from Richie McKay of this is unacceptable, this is terrible, using the media to convey that message, and maybe doing the exact same thing with his team. But when you know you've got veteran players who can take on that burden, if you will, I believe, TJ, that affords Richie McKay the ability to kind of be the yin to the yang. If they're young players, they may be yang, and he has to be the, tough guy. But because they're veterans who say, lackadaisical, unacceptable, those type of phrases, then Richie McKay therefore knows he does not have to go that route and can try to tamper it down, knowing the players are going to apply the pressure themselves to be as good as possible, and they're going to apply it to their teammates too.
Absolutely, and it's going to help the team better, make the team better in the long run. You need veterans like that, which is what Porter, Matheny, and Cleveland are.
Indeed. That's a big part for Liberty. And look, I mean, I know we've inserted our jokes here about Kennesaw State and the fact that not going to bet on them, pun fully intended with that one, to win Conference USA tournament or make it to the NCAAs. That idea, whoop, out the window. But the thing is, you need veteran experience over the course of the season, understanding the ups and downs, then peaking for the conference tournament and knowing what the burden of that is. A lot of this is having a finger on the pulse of your team and adaptive leadership. I know that's a phrase that Ian McCall likes to use, but he's used it about his coaches and how well they do and how he judges them is adaptive leadership. Some of that is for adapting to the times of college athletics, rev share, pay for play, NIL, all that. But some of it is also adapting to where your team is and what they need in a given moment. If you're always fire and brimstone, to younger teams, they may need that. But to veteran teams, often that works against you, and you got to know how to go the other way.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important for a team. It's hard to have veterans on the team this year, but you look at what Kelvin Sampson and Houston, I know we've mentioned them a bunch, but they're great with that. They're great at keeping veterans. Purdue, we've seen it as well, 3 1,000-point scorers. And I think it's very important to have older guys there. Real quickly, Duke, for example. Isaiah Evans, Caleb Foster up there. They're veteran guys that have been through fire and brimstone in the college level before. That can help stars like Cam Boozer overcome humps. That's why I think it's so important to be able to keep veteran guys in the college basketball world. That's why I think it's going to be important once Cleveland and them go to keep Decker as much as possible, who will be the young veteran after them.
No doubt. And keep other glue guys around as well and get some minutes because, I mean, again, every time I see Decker play, I just can't help but think somebody's going to try to pay to poach him off the roster. I mean, look, if you think it's happening in football, and we might get to that in the Fast Five at 5-ish and 5:45 if we do not connect with Kelvin Harris at that time. But, you know, look, it's the reality is, and if you hear about a program, that's one thing, but there are plenty of programs that are doing behind-the-scenes work about it. There's just some that, Lane Kiffin, Miami, that choose not to hide it as much as other programs, but inevitably, you're not doing your job if you're not vetting potential candidates and seeing what you can do. Meanwhile, speaking of Miami, Quint Kessenich on the sidelines. He's been there for the college football playoff. We will get his perspective when he steps into the fast lane next here on the VTRN Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports. Plus, we might sneak in a little UVA lacrosse and college lacrosse as well, since that's his area of expertise. All of that when we return here in the fast lane. Stay tuned on the VTRN Sports app, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. We've seen a lot since 1982. One new issue is an increasing number of uninsured drivers. Unfortunately, when these drivers are at fault for an accident, there's a higher likelihood that they'll flee from the scene, leaving you with a potential mess. So in shopping for your auto insurance policy, please keep in mind that strong, uninsured motorist coverage can protect you from this headache. And if you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, call us at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us. Build with experience. Build with quality. Build with right choice.
New year can mean new changes in your life, but you know what will never change? The great deals that you get on InsaneRadioDeals.com. And we don't just feed your taste buds, but we feed your adventurous side, your hobbies, your interests, with great rates on Rise Up Climbing Passes, Aquatrek Adventures, and Cross White Athletics Club. Or if you're a sports nerd like me, we got gift certificates for a SeaOfRed.com and BNC Sports located at River Ridge Mall. All this and more at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Big tech is a bull in a china shop. Big tech is taking advantage of outdated federal regulations that just might put local TV and radio stations out of business. It's time to modernize Washington's restrictions on TV and radio station ownership. Text radio to 39179 and tell policymakers to let local stations compete. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hey y'all, Mike Burnip here. Start jumping. This is your home for the Hokies. VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Would this be the greatest coaching job ever? Everybody has talked about turnarounds, and obviously there is still one game that is left to be played. You'll hear it Monday night right here on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM in the Lynchburg area. And, of course, ask that smart speaker of yours, open VTRN Sports. But Curt Cignetti from JMU to Indiana, making the playoff last year, despite Indiana historically being one of the worst power programs in college football. And this year, the potential to go fully undefeated as 100-1 odds at the beginning of the year to make the national championship, to win the national championship if they finish it off. I do think you could very much argue, just given the relative lack of talent, granted they have the likely number one pick at quarterback, and they have a lot of veterans, so maybe we need to rethink that talent. But the era in which we live, the perception of that program, it seems like a very reasonable question. And somebody who has been on the sideline for Indiana games and has been on the sideline for the college football playoff, and you've heard him already on the VTRN Sports app because he's called these games with ESPN Radio's crew, Quint Kessenich, back with us once again in the Fast Lane. Quint, first of all, we hope 2026 is treating you well. Hope you and your family are well. Most importantly, though, how was your daughter's dance night last night?
Well, they had an MLK production at school for 2 nights. Actually, one night and one day during school, but I got to watch and it was enjoyable. There was singing, there was dancing, there was a couple bands played. It was middle school and upper school, basically, entertainment for about an hour. It was great.
That's awesome. I mean, just taking time and enjoying moments with your kids. I've got 2 7.5-year-old boys and was at home with them today. And then tonight we're going out for laser tag with their school and first grade class and just fun little things to do. So it's awesome. You're in a spot to be doing that, Quint. Pivoting off of our wonderful families over to college football, Indiana. Is it reasonable to consider they could be in the category of, if not the greatest run in the college football playoff era, maybe one of the greatest runs ever if they can finish the deal off against Miami this coming Monday night?
Especially in the fashion that they've won their last 2 games. I mean, you think about the domination in the Rose Bowl, the domination that we saw in Atlanta. I was on the Oregon bench for that game that was over basically after the first play. Really impressed with Indiana in terms of their efficiency, the way they operate, minimize mistakes. They've had some really good players now become great players. Their quarterback play is elite, strong running backs, good offensive line. I mean, this is a team that really doesn't really have an obvious weakness. They played 4 close games this year. Maybe their weakness is that they haven't had to play the full 60 very much. And that's something maybe Miami, if Miami can drag this game into that fourth quarter, maybe, I mean, twice Fernando Mendoza this season has led fourth quarter drives for wins, but this is a team that they've been steamrolling people. Maybe that perhaps is their only weakness, the fact that they're not quite as battle tested across 60 minutes.
Quint Kessenich with us here in the Fast Lane. You've heard him on the sideline already for ESPN Radio's coverage of the college football playoff, and you've heard him right here on 93.3 FM Lynchburg and the VTRN Sports app, and he's with us here in the Fast Lane, and he was in that game down in Atlanta where Indiana just blew out Oregon. Fernando Mendoza at quarterback. A lot of our folks are familiar with him from his time at Cal before taking over at Indiana. Have you seen a college quarterback in recent memory that has been that quick of a processor in translating that to getting the ball out before the pass rush can do anything?
Yeah, and his back shoulder throws are about as good as you'll ever see from a college quarterback. I mean, those plays are almost undefendable. The way the ball's in the air and the receiver's still not even in his break yet, receiver turns and the ball's on his chest. He did that 2 or 3 times in that Oregon game. There were a couple plays in that game. Ball security in the pocket was shaky on that one play, and I think if Akeem Messidor and Ruben Bain can apply some pressure, maybe we start to see that Fernando Mendoza is human. But the numbers that he's put up in the last 2 games, more touchdowns and incompletions, incomplete control, hitting his deep balls, hitting all the underneath stuff. The running game's been good. It's been flawless. It's been as dominant a performance as you could ever see. And this is a young man who grew up in Miami, grew up a short distance from campus. He went to camps at the University of Miami. His dad played was a Miami teammate with Mario Cristobal. So he's got roots in that community. And so this is going to be a special game for him, kind of a homecoming game for him. And that's a big storyline this week in the buildup.
Is Fernando Mendoza the type of quarterback, and are the Indiana Hoosiers the type of program that would play up that angle of Miami didn't want you? Or, I mean, is that really necessary considering this is the national championship game?
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think everyone missed on him. In fact, he was going to go to Yale, and then decided on Cal. I think he might have been a 2-star coming out of high school. And this is a young man who continued to block. I got a friend up in New York who watched him play for Cal last year, early in the season. It's like this guy Mendoza is the best quarterback I've seen all year. He's a pretty sharp football watcher, and so I kept my eye on him all across last season. His brother was on the Indiana team last year as the backup quarterback, and so they're a brother pairing of a QB1 and QB2. But and I've dealt with him. I interviewed him in the Peach Bowl, and he couldn't be a smarter, more interesting, hardworking answers he'll give you. He's thoughtful. This young man is just exemplifies what you got to love about college football. So I have nothing but absolute respect and admiration for him, and hope he can finish off his career, and then he'll be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. I'd be shocked if he wasn't.
Yeah, I think most people are penciling him in now to the Las Vegas Raiders, and ironically enough, Tom Brady was a pretty good processor, and he's involved in that decision as well. So I'd imagine there's some affinity for that. Quint Kessenich, we have affinity for his analysis on lacrosse. We'll get a couple questions into that in the back half of our chat today, if there's enough time, from the ESPN and ESPN radio sideline reporter who's with us in the fast lane. Quint, Miami, how do they counter Indiana and the dominance that the Hoosiers have shown so far?
This will be my 5th Miami game. And it goes way back to when they beat Stanford. Their offense was sputtering. Malachi Toney popped a punt return, and then they woke up. I did their game at SMU that lost when Carson Beck threw 2 picks. And that's been symptomatic of their 2 losses. 4 interceptions against Louisville, 2 interceptions against SMU. But that was November 1st, and they've rattled off 7 straight wins. They've played elimination football. And people just talk about the CFP. Well, remember, this team played elimination football down the stretch. They needed to beat Virginia Tech. They needed to beat Pitt. And they got some help. They got some help with the ACC championship game, and they got some help across the landscape. But I think they're going to approach this game much like they approached that Ohio State game. They think that they have the offensive line, Miami, and the defensive line to compete with anybody. And those 2 units keep everything within reach. And you've got an experienced quarterback, Carson Beck, making his 43rd start. You've got some guys on the outside now starting to make plays in CJ Daniels and Malachi Toney. You've got a proven running back in the playoff in Mark Fletcher, who's averaging about 130 yards in the last 3 games. And then the defense has been good all year. This Miami defense is nasty. They get after the passer, man. The pass rush is the best in the country. They're really solid. They've only given up like 1 touchdown plus 40 yards. They don't give up chunk plays. And so they play a very NFL style. These are low scoring games, long possessions for Miami on offense, because typically chunk plays have been tough for them to generate as well. So they've been kind of like slugfest, low scoring, low possession games. I think they had 41 minutes of possession against in their last game against Ole Miss. And so that's kind of what I expect in this game. I expect a low scoring game, almost like when Indiana played Ohio State, it was 13-10. When Miami played Texas A&M, it was another low scoring game, something where the winner probably has 24 or 21 points.
Quint Kessenich hanging out with us today in the Fast Lane, ESPN TV sideline reporter, but we don't know that. We just know him because we listen to him on the VTR and Sports app because he's ESPN Radio sideline reporter as well. That's where we know of Quint during college football season. You were there where it was described as like 90-10 Indiana to Oregon fans. I'm still trying to figure out where the 10% of Duck fans were. It seemed like it was a Hoosier landslide down in Atlanta. Do you anticipate more Indiana fans than Hurricanes fans in Miami Monday night?
I think they're both given a $25,000 or $20,000 ticket allotment, and then the remainder goes to the public market. I mean, they'll spend the money because it's been since 1991 Copper Bowl, and I was in Tucson during the Copper Bowl that year, believe it or not, and I met some Indiana cheerleaders while I was down there. I was doing a lacrosse camp in Tucson in December of 1991. That's how bizarre this whole thing is, but they traveled. I have never seen anything like that, Ed, in my entire life of covering athletics, where you have a road neutral game was 90 plus 95% Indiana fans. I've done games in Bloomington back in the day. Cam Cameron was the coach. Terry Hepner was the coach. The place was half full. And to think about this turnaround and the fan support, it's wonderful to see. These fans are so happy. They've waited for so long. God bless them. And I know they'll show up in Miami, and they're gonna have to open their wallets because these tickets are not cheap. I'm seeing 2,000, 3,000 type per seat.
Yeah, that's a lot, no doubt about it. Quint Kessenich with us here in the Fast Lane. You referenced lacrosse, by the way, when you were at that early 90s Copper Bowl down in Arizona. So we will ask a couple of lacrosse questions, if you don't mind, with lacrosse season around the corner. For Virginia, it opens in early February against Colgate. Then they've got Richmond and Stony Brook. Normally, you'd say those should be wins. They were not last year. Why are you on a bounce back year for Lars Tiffany and Virginia lacrosse?
Well, the Richmond game is one you got to circle after they lost to Richmond. The Spiders were quarterfinalists last year and return a pretty good team this year. I think Virginia should hold serve against Colgate and Stony Brook, but that Richmond game, I believe it's on the road this year as well. That's a tough spot because I think Richmond now is kind of entrenched as a top 12 type team. Virginia will be interesting. I like their defense and I like their attack. I think they're going to be a little light in the midfield. I was down at a Virginia practice when they played, when the football team played Wake Forest in a night game and lost to Wake Forest. But I was at Thursday practice, Lars Tiffany and the gang, and then I went back on Saturday or Friday. I think it was Friday night. They had a little alumni get together, and I just strolled by and watched for about 10 minutes. But I liked what I saw in practice. Again, athletic and gigantic on defense and really skillful on attack. The question mark will be what happens in the middle of the field.
Quint, we'll follow it up and wrap it up on this then. You mentioned Virginia, you mentioned Richmond, the change in expectations there. With Notre Dame out, presumably, a little bit, hampered considering they won the last two championships and last year was just absolutely, they've been dominant the last couple of years. Do you see a spot where this is as wide open a men's lacrosse season in quite some time?
I do, but then again, you'll end up talking about the same faces. Like Cornell won the championship last year. They were 18-1. Their only loss was an early march to Penn State. They lose C.J. Kurse, the best player in the country. But I typically don't like the defending champion the next year. Cornell, I think, is a little better than people realize. So I got them in the top 5. Maryland is the team to beat. And that's like something that we've been repeating now for the past 20 years. Syracuse made championship weekend. They should be as good as they were a year ago. North Carolina has their best team in more than a decade. Okay, they lost in the first round playoffs to Richmond at home. Richmond should be pretty good. Notre Dame should be pretty good. Georgetown may be better. They picked up 2 transfers from Colgate. So that's kind of where I'm starting in terms of my research. I like Towson and Albany in terms of mid-majors. If you're a fan of the mid-majors and teams, I think that can win their league and maybe win a playoff game. Towson and Albany are 2 kind of underdog teams that you should keep your eyes on.
Well, that's a very exciting just to see how wide open it could be in men's lacrosse. That season is about to get underway in early February. We'd love to catch up with you as that season unfolds, Quint. In the meantime, thank you for touching on that at the end of a chance where we could also talk some college football as that season wraps up. Appreciate your time today in the fast lane and love the lacrosse sticks in the background.
Thank you. They're about as old as I am.
Well, not too old then. Very young. You got him yesterday, right?
No. I was out shooting with my daughter and her friends as their season, starts next month. But the college teams have been going at it since early January. So we got scrimmages coming up this Saturday. Games start January 31st and February 1st. So, I turn the page, and next thing you know, football turns directly into lacrosse right now. There's no buffer zone anymore.
It is not, and that will get us to Memorial Day, as crazy it is to think that far in advance, but it goes quick. Quint, thank you for your time today in the fast lane. We're glad to catch up.
Thanks, Ed.
Quint Kessenich with us here in the fast lane. Love getting his insight when we return. A little more on the national championship game and maybe some other topics in the Fast Five at 5-ish here in the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. Ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
We're joined by Corey Argentino from Earthright Mid-Atlantic and Earthright Roofing. Corey, blending those two together, the roofing and the solar, how does that benefit the customer?
Well, the customer now has a trusted source, a local trusted source for solar and roofing needs. So if you've already gone solar or know somebody who needs a roof, it's a great mix. You've already had the experience with the company, you understand how we work. We're local and we have a showroom here. You can come right in and see how it works together.
You mentioned the showroom. People can come in when they speak with an Earthright consultant. How beneficial is that with a consultant that can consult on both roofing and solar?
Well, I think it's very important. And I say why people should come in the showroom. I drove 5 hours to get my dog. I know many other people have. You can drive 30 minutes or an hour to come see something before you purchase it. You can touch and feel the product, meet the team, and see how we do business.
It's an easy way to get acquainted with both Earthright Mid-Atlantic and the solar division, as well as Earthright Roofing and the ability to blend those two pieces together. Come by, see the showroom on Timberlake Road in Lynchburg, and learn more at earthright.com.
A cool food concept sparks curiosity. What about two concepts at one restaurant? That's even better. Oliver's on Rivermont is Lynchburg's first multi-concept restaurant. Pick items from the traditional Oliver's menu, the 801 Raw Bar menu, or mix and match. And you'll appreciate the consistency of Oliver's new kitchen and serving staff. Two cool concepts in one. Only available at Oliver's on Rivermont.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Are you tired of static? Wish you could take your favorite Virginia radio stations with you wherever you go? Then you need to discover the power of streaming. That's right. You can now easily listen to the Virginia Talk Radio Network for insightful discussions and local news.
From the VTRN News Center, I'm Bill Trefiro.
And groove to classic hits on Rewind 1039. All from your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No more fiddling with the dial. Just download your favorite radio app. Search for Virginia Talk Radio Network or Rewind 1039, and you're ready to go. Stay connected with your community
Good morning. This is Kimberly McBroom in the WDBJ 7 newsroom with our Virginia Talk Radio Network news update.
And enjoy the music you love anytime, anywhere. Streaming the Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. It's that easy. Virginia Talk Radio Network. Rewind 1039. Now streaming.
Hey, gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle BT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
I mean, you could accuse us of trolling Kelvin Harris, the 3-time national championship center from the Miami Hurricanes, with that Bud Foster introduction. But, I mean, how would we be? Miami has beaten Virginia Tech so recently that it should not upset him, as we are glad to welcome him into the Fast Lane. He's also the host of the U podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, and we welcome him in to look ahead to the championship game. First of all, Kelvin, I would apologize, but I don't even know if one is needed because Miami has dominated Virginia Tech and a good chunk of the college football playoff field en route to the championship game Monday night on the VTRN Sports app.
Hey, no need to apologize. Bud Foster should have been the head coach after your man retired. But,
Frank Beamer.
Hey, yeah, no, he was a hell of a defensive coordinator, and hopefully James Franklin can get Virginia Tech back up to speed so that the rivalry can, spruce up.
There have been some okay and close games in there, but it hasn't had the same juice as it's had in its heyday because Virginia Tech has been down. That is a topic for the offseason that we can discuss, and always love doing that with Kelvin Harris, host of the U podcast and 3-time national championship center for the Miami Hurricanes. I saw the post that you tweeted earlier today at Ebony Lifestyles on Twitter about Miami. If for whatever reason they had not lost to SMU or Louisville, they might have been the 5 seed and actually have played their first round game in Miami, the Orange Bowl quarterfinal in Miami, and the national championship game in Miami. Oh, what could have been, but oh, will it matter if Miami wins it on Monday night?
No, and I'm kind of glad that it didn't happen because that makes this championship that much more fulfilling. They have to go out on the road under adverse situations, take on our challengers, and prove everybody wrong. Because right now, listening to the national media, we're basically playing the equivalent of Thanos in the Avengers. I mean, they're making this team out to be comparable to LSU 19 and 01 Miami when it's not even close.
Am I off base when I look at the Indiana Hoosiers? And I say this to kind of counter that theory. This might be one of the greatest coaching jobs if they end up beating Miami. I know I'm not trying to speak.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
Because their talent level is nowhere close to any of those other teams that you mentioned, or frankly, any of the teams by and large that have made deep runs in the college football playoff. It's all these talented teams, and then there's Curt Cignetti's wizardry.
He's done a great job. But let's not get it twisted. If Ohio State had a competent field goal kicker, we would be talking about an epic matchup between Ohio State and Miami right now. Because their field goal kicker missed 2 field goals in that game. And if he doesn't miss those 2 field goals, Ohio State wins by 3 points.
And yet he missed them, and now all of a sudden, Indiana, they are where they are. No, the other thing that has jumped out to me, again, you played center, so you're very familiar with the cerebral positions, playing one of them, but also understanding what goes into it. Is it, and I respect their wide receivers. One of them is Elijah Surratt, who followed from Virginia, JMU, followed Cignetti up there. But a lot of this offense to me is the ability for Fernando Mendoza. He's maybe one of the best processors and get the ball out quarterbacks that we've seen in quite some time. Is that off base, or is that a big part of how Indiana has done what they've done?
No, he's a very smart quarterback. He's got a veteran receiving crew. He's got a veteran offense. They're, apparently they're older than 2 teams, average age, and 2 teams in the league. But here's the thing. They haven't really been hit in the mouth. And he hasn't really been just under immense pressure for an entire game like how we're able to do with teams. So that's where I'm interested to see what happens when Bain and Messidor and Ahmad Moulton pin their ears back and come at him.
When you look at this game, as Kelvin Harris, host of the U podcast, 3-time national champion center for the Miami Hurricanes, is with us in the fast lane. Kelvin, how much is the key for Miami what their defensive front is able to do, and particularly up the gut to throw off the timing of what Fernando Mendoza has done getting the ball out quickly?
Well, the key for them, they have to try and run the football. I don't think they can. They're very similar to us in their running attack. They got two really solid backs. One is like 5'11", 6 foot, 210, and the other is about 5'10", 210. And they're real concise and no nonsense. And they're getting, the proverbial 4 or 5 yards of carry. I just think the problem is I don't think they're going to be able to move our front. And I think that's going to force them into 2nd and long, 3rd and long. And that's where the chess match begin, because they're going to probably try to screen game early to slow us. Because they got to slow us down. They have to slow our pass rush down. And on the flip side, we have to stay out of 2nd, 3rd and long too. Although I don't think Carson Beck gets the credit he deserves for his passing acumen. But I can't wait to see what happens when their receivers get hit in the mouth, when their running back is hit in the mouth, because our front is violent and we're going to hit somebody. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised in the back of Mendoza's mind, he remembers the hit that put him out of last year's game when he was at Cal by Western Bassaint.
Interesting.
That might still be lingering in his head when he decides to run.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that, but that is a great point from Kelvin Harris, who's the host of the U podcast and the 3-time national champion with the Miami Hurricanes, looking ahead to Monday night's national championship game that you'll be able to hear right here on the VTRN Sports app and Ask Your Smart Speaker, open VTRN Sports. Kelvin, we touched a lot on when Indiana has the football. When Miami has the football, you mentioned not getting enough credit for his passing acumen. There have been mistakes at times, particularly in the losses. But Carson Beck, how improved is he from that midseason slump that he suffered against Louisville and maybe to a lesser extent SMU?
Well, I think that's the other thing. I think that, to be honest with you, was overblown. Louisville, he did throw 4 picks. But let's break down those 4 picks. One of them was his fault. You got one of them. Guy makes one of the most incredible picks I've seen all year, where he falls out of coverage, dives in the air, one hit, makes a pick. Then you had 2 that were just tipped. And the last one, the end of the game, where the guy makes the pick, he grabs it with like 2 fingers right before it hits the ground and rolls over. I mean, freak. And then SMU, if JoJo doesn't bobble the ball back to them, we probably blow them out. The other pick, they grab our receiver, pull him down, we don't get DPI, pick. Probably, now I'd say he's got 3 picks over the year that I can say, yeah, those were his fault. But for the most part, I would say 90% of the time he has been spot on for us in his decision making. Now, he's missed some touchdowns with overthrows, but the A&M game, you're talking 30-mile-an-hour wind. I mean, he has just been steady for us. He's done a great job of recognition of front and coverages. And he's taken what the defense has given him. Like, he hasn't forced it downfield. If there's a check down, let's take the check down and get the yards. And I think that's come with maturity. And that's something that even pro quarterbacks have a problem with.
Overall game plan for Miami offensively, do you envision this being similar to the way it was against Ole Miss and, frankly, Ohio State and Texas A&M, where they're not looking to put up 35-plus points? It's more of a let's control the game as much as possible and wear you out, trusting that the trench play will ultimately be the difference.
Yeah, I really believe we're just going to wear them down. Now, they're very tricky up front because they do a lot of stunts, slants, games. And there's going to be some hit and miss on our part, but I really think we're going to gas them for some big runs because they're going to stunt themselves right into some trouble. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think as long as we don't turn the ball over and we keep our penalties down, I don't see how they can beat us.
We'll find out Monday night as somebody who's holding that 16-1 ticket on the Miami Hurricanes to win the championship from back in the middle of the season. I hope you're correct, even though I have a little hedge on Indiana. Miami winning would still be the most easy, smooth thing for me, Kelvin. So selfishly, I'm hoping for that as well. We will pivot off of that. Miami's been in the news. Obviously, the Darian Mensah development today is the latest example of where they've been in the news. Is this just Miami getting a bad rap for doing what so many other programs are doing, which is looking at guys on different rosters, or is this something that is legitimately concerning?
No, so I literally just found out about this about 10 minutes ago. My partner called me and said, man, y'all some nasty dogs. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I guess he hasn't committed to us, right?
No, that's just the speculation is that because he announced today he's transferring out of Duke 1 year into that 2-year, $8 million reported deal he has, that's Miami is viewed to be the reason why.
Oh, I can believe that. Yeah. If it ain't us, you got to look at who else needs a quarterback. I mean, look, here's the reality. He did a great job at Duke, and they did a great job of making him rich. But if you're him, first of all, we got our entire receiver crew coming back. There's a good chance we're going to get Jordan Seaton. I think they talked Markel Bell into coming back. So we're basically going to do the same thing we did this year, next year. We're just going to run the ball down people's throat, and he'll be able to our receivers will be a year older. No disrespect to Duke, but come on. And hey, I'm going to call it right now. The name that all you guys need to know next year, because Bain and Messidor are gone, because Bain ain't coming back. Marquise Lightfoot. Remember that name. He'll be Bain Messidor next year.
Marquise Lightfoot, the name that we will have now at the top of our watch list from Kelvin
And
Harris.
Two more names. Aiden Lowe, Urban Scroggins.
Aiden Lowe and Urban Scroggins. Okay. You've given us homework to do, not just Monday night, but for next year as well.
Yes. Well, you'll see Lightfoot play. When they go to the NASCAR package, they move him around. So you may see Bain and Messidor on the same side. They put Lightfoot on the other side so that he can get a one-on-one. He's 6'5", he's 235. They'll stand him up over the center. I mean, they'll have him jam receivers. He is a jack of all trades. I call him Baby JT because he's built like Jason Taylor. And ironically, his coach is Jason Taylor. So, yeah. So, look, we're not rebuilding anymore. We're reloading.
It's good for the ACC, though. It's elevating the expectation for the rest of the conference.
I agree. Now we just need Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Florida State to shake it off and get back to what. If we could get those four schools good at the same time, you imagine what kind of conference we'd have?
Oh, it'd be fantastic. I mean, there's enough there. I like you're applying pressure to Virginia Tech. You know, it's good for the ACC if Virginia Tech is good, Kelvin. We need that pressure up here.
Well, I think Franklin's going to be successful. I guess the question is, who's his quarterback going to be next year?
Most people are expecting it's Ethan Grunkmeyer, who was the Penn State transfer who came in. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. Looked decent in the second half of the year for whatever that's worth. You know, Penn State was out of it, but on the flip side, you know, when the coaching staff's out and you look halfway decent, maybe that's a good thing as well. But I mean, look, this is the ACC. You could easily, I'm not saying they'll win it, but wouldn't shock me if Virginia Tech makes it to Charlotte because the ACC is just wide open after Miami.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting year.
It is. We'll keep up with it. We'll keep up with the offseason. Kelvin Harris with us in the Fast Lane. Kelvin, thank you for making some time for us. Look forward to catching up in the offseason and staying connected throughout the game on Monday night as well. Ebony Lifestyles on Twitter, the U Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and Kelvin Harris 54UM on Instagram. Before we let you go, though, you got a podcast coming out before the big game on Monday night?
Yeah, I'm actually about to go record it now. It'll probably be out tomorrow sometime.
Make it early so I can listen to it on my morning run.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get to it.
Come on. Do it for us. We need the pep talk. We're giving you the same pep talk you're giving Virginia Tech.
Okay. I'm motivated now.
Awesome. We'll let you go on that. Kelvin Harris with us here in the Fast Lane to wrap it up. A great chance to chat with him today. W227BG Timberlake, WVJM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, the VTRN Sports app, wall-to-wall NFL playoffs, college basketball tomorrow, NFL playoffs Sunday, college football championship Monday, and now on to regular ESPN radio programming already in progress.
Josh Allen, because he's been a little bit banged up. Yeah. I think for me, the biggest question is that Bills team, because they have been banged up and because his weapons have also been banged up. And can Brandon Cooks cook, you know, because they're going to need him too. And on paper,